fish comes up and wants to attack it, they can stick those out. Now, if you guys remember the documentary called Finding Nemo, you remember Bubbles, the yellow tang? He's also got the same type of thing. He's got scalpels, a little scalpel back there as well, except they kind of resemble a cat claw. And so keep an eye out for those guys, yellow tang. Oh, okay, cool. Starboard side, we got a shark, got a small, looks like a white-tipped reef shark out there just kind of cruising around. All right, we're coming up on the pyramids right now. Let me kind of describe some of these fish to you. So on the starboard side, you guys are seeing the pyramids. Port side, you guys are seeing the same thing as well, except they're different. Anyways, there's some yellow fish, a whole bunch of blue stripes on those called blue striped snappers. Those guys are, they're actually invasive. They were brought here from Tahiti by human beings. They didn't live here, they didn't swim here. They got brought here on a boat. And so you're going to see some endemic fish, you're going to see some fish that are invasive here. Also on top of some of these structures, you might see some
there's sea urchins
urchins.
too.
Those guys are called fauna in Hawaiian. Yeah, you don't want to step on those guys either. In fact, my dog stepped on one of those fauna, on one of those spikes, and he was in trouble. I had one go through my hand, and this little spines break off and have a little bit of venom in it. So keep an eye on where you're snorkeling and scuba diving and whatnot. Don't pick those guys up. Don't let them go through your hand. It hurts. Port side, you guys are looking at an anchor. Yeah, an anchor. We found that out here. We moved it around a little bit. We put it there. That's an old kedge anchor off of probably an old whaling ship that was sunk out here many, many years ago. A lot of coral growing on as well. Also, port side, you're going to see a really unusual piece of coral out there. It looks like a cinder block. That is called cinder block coral. Yeah, it looks just like a cinder block. It's been widely mined by Lowe's and Home Depot, almost into extinction. We have a couple pieces out here. They are collector's items. I'm only kidding you. That is, we use those for navigation. Sometimes the visibility is horrible out here, and our pilots need to follow things, kind of like when you get lost and you throw crumbs out. That's what they are. So unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of navigation down here. A lot of it's visual, and we do have a compass as well. We don't have the modern features of a GPS or anything to tell us where we're at or where we're going. So we have to use a very smart pilot, a compass, and sometimes we have to use those cinder blocks. So yeah, we put those down here. Starboard side, you guys are looking at Halimeda algae. That algae out there that's growing looks like a little weed. Number one, the turtles love to eat it. It's also responsible for making some of the sand that you're seeing out here. About 20% of the sand that you see on the ocean floor, this white sand, is created by the Halimeda algae. It has a skeletal system on it that is made of calcium carbonate, and it's very, very white. It dies and flakes off. It mixes with the sand. Calcium carbonate is also the active ingredient of Tums and Rolaids. So if anybody has an upset tummy, let me know. Captain Chris, he'll roll over, we'll pop the hatches open, you guys can get some of that. It's no charge. Yeah. Let me tell you how the rest of this sand got here. The 70% of the sand actually came from the southbound end of a northbound fish. And we've got fish out here. The fish are called parrotfish. Yeah, parrotfish actually tries to eat the algae off the coral. It takes a bite of the coral, goes through its stomach, its intestines, comes out the backside as fish poop. Yeah, 70% of the sand you see is made of that. Comes through a fish, so it's called a parrotfish. 10% of the sand is just eroded coral. So most of this stuff is all skeletal coral.
Oh wait, this must be the projects that they that Atlantis and
sign on there. Yeah, we own those. We sunk them. I don't know why we had to put our sign on there, but it does say Atlantis Submarine, just in case you guys get lost or you're ever out here, don't know where you're at. Keep an eye out for those guys. Anyways, we sunk those out here. They're about 27 tons. They're made of spun fiberglass and concrete. It's a great hiding place for fish. They're made by the Asahi Corporation in Japan, and we put them out here in 1989 to see if we could attract more fish and give them hiding spots, and that's what we've done. The other thing those were used for is manufacturing, actually not manufacturing, but helping to grow seaweed. Now, we don't have any seaweed out here in Japan. Those help harvest seaweed.
We're 82
That's what you guys eat with your
We're
sushi.
83.
Those are called the Japanese reefs. They kind of resemble like a wine rack. All right, starboard side, you guys are looking out at a large coral reef area. It's called Poli and Poli. And a lot of coral out there. Matter of fact, I was telling you about telling you guys about the octopus out here. This is where you might see an octopus, maybe even see an eel up there. Matter of fact, there might be 4 or 5 octopus out there. You just can't see them because they are the master of disguise. The octopus can actually change colors and change shapes and make it and look just like a piece of coral that it's hiding in.
That's not a big fish.
Let's see. Wow, it's like a grassland.
Yeah, it's just like a grassland. We're 85 feet deep. Look.
Yeah, I know.
86. Oh, that's fascinating.
Still the best gift ever. Never forget this.
All right, in respect to some of the coral that you guys see out here, a lot of the coral out here kind of resembles its name. So some of the stuff we see out here is cauliflower coral. Looks like a head of cauliflower coral. We see very little grain coral. We do see some green wire coral. We see plate coral. There's all sorts of other types of coral out here. We have about 44 different species of coral. Coral actually started out as a polyp. It's a living organism. Started out as a polyp, and it grows. It grows about a quarter inch a year. So if you see some of these little reefs out here that might be 8 to 12 inches long, they could have been there for about 100 years. Yeah, we got a turtle out here. All right, everybody over here on the starboard side, take a look out your newborn windows right on the ocean floor. Captain Chris is kind of hovering around here so you guys can see it. He kind of drove over the top of this guy. Doesn't understand what he's doing. He's sitting down there eating rocks. So let's go take a look. There he is.
It's turning this way now.
All right, so that's a Hawaiian green sea turtle. The reason why it's green is he eats greens. Yeah, all this stuff on the ocean floor is green, and all the moss and algae he eats is green. So that's why he's green.
We gotta visit this.
Those guys can actually stay under the water without going to the surface to breathe
Let's see if we
for
can
a couple hours. They sleep down here occasionally. They'll wake up, go
Look, the
take a
yellow
breath, come
tang it's
back down.
eating.
With the
Some of these
angelfish.
turtles are over 100 years old that you're seeing out here. The ones with the long tails
Oh, wait.
are males. The ones with the short
giant
tails are
trevally.
females.
Oh, yeah,
All right,
giant
starboard side. Look straight down. You're going to see a really cool turtle. Looks like a female just kind of cruising around down there. It is kind of unusual to see a turtle at 81 feet. Actually, he's about 90 feet right now. We normally only see the turtles from 0 to 20 feet. Not sure what he's doing out here. Kind of unusual.
No, there's one coming at us. Giant on
All right, port side. Looking at some large coral formations out there. Also, that one fish up top there, that big fish, that is called a giant trevally. I think I was telling you about him a little earlier.
Yeah, giant trevally.
His Hawaiian name is Yalua, and he is one of the favorites out here for spearfishing. So we occasionally have spearfishermen that come out here and they free dive out here. Free diving is not diving for free. It's actually diving free of a tank. They'll come all the way down from the surface, and they'll chase those guys and spear them. And he's one of the fun fish to catch out here. The unfortunate part about some of these predator fish that we're looking at out here, like the Alua, they're really not edible. They have what they call ciguatera poisoning. And ciguatera poisoning is it's edible, but you'll probably get sick. So a lot of times you can't eat it. It's about $10 for a test kit to see if a fish has ciguatera poisoning. So some of these guys aren't worthy of testing to put it on the market to sell. We just went over a couple starfish, or sea stars as we call them. Those are invertebrates. All right, starboard side, you're looking at more Japanese reefs. All right, starboard side. If you look down on the bottom of those Japanese reefs, those are the yellow tangs. That's Bubbles from Finding Nemo. If you remember My Bubbles, My Bubbles, My Bubbles? Yeah, he's the guy that was in the fish aquarium. Bubbles. All right, right in the middle of that reef coming up, the artificial reef right there is a giant porcupine fish, and that's Bloat from Finding Nemo. If you remember the dentist tank, there was a puffer-looking fish. His name was Bloat. But that's actually not really a puffer fish. It is a giant porcupine
I
fish.
think I
Those guys are
I think I see a plane crash. A plane
in fact, you can't eat those guys here. They have what they call tetrodotoxin in them. And if you do eat it, 1 milliliter is enough to kill you. So definitely don't eat any porcupine fish out here. There's a couple other puffer fish that have tetrodotoxin poison in them as well. In fact, if you guys ever go to Japan or Korea, you can order those guys on the menu, on the sushi menu. Their sushi chefs have to go through several years of education just to learn how to slice those guys up so they don't kill you. That's the only place you can eat in the United States it's illegal. But yeah, even in Japan and Korea, they'll put, oh, we got another shark down here. Oh yeah, there we are. That is that looks like a black, oh, that's a white tip. That's a white tip reef shark. Starboard side, all the way down on the ocean floor. That's a real small one. Not a baby, but I would say it's about a year old. The white tip reef sharks are the only shark out here. We have 50 species that can actually lay on the ocean floor and breathe. A lot of sharks have to do what they call ram ventilation, where they're swimming and they actually get their respiratory enhancements through the water by going forward. But that shark right there, the white tip reef shark, it can actually lay on the bottom of the ocean floor, and it has a muscle in its cheek. And it can do what they call buccal breathing. It just moves its little buccal muscle back and forth, and it pumps the seawater in to remove all the respiratory features out of the water. A lot of those sharks out there, they hunt at night, so they're nocturnal. They also...
I mean, 101.
Any of you guys scared of sharks?
Nope.
Yeah? You guys are scared of sharks? Well, if you guys are scared of sharks, you really shouldn't be. They only like women and children. So you guys don't have anything to worry about. All right, on the our starboard side, we have some airplane wings. Let me tell you about that airplane right there. That's what they call a YS-11. Made by a company called the Nihon Aircraft Corporation in Japan. Back in 1962, the Japanese government decided to build airplanes. And they had 6 of their big manufacturers in Japan. One of them, Mitsubishi, Kawasaki, Sumitomo, Fuji, to name a few of them. They all got together and built parts of this aircraft. Well, clearly it was a failure. Actually, no, there is one still flying. There were 262 of those guys built. There's one still in the air back in Cleveland, Ohio. But we have 2 of those guys out here. You'll see another one in just a minute. We bought those from a company called Bid Pacific Airlines. They used to fly from here to Johnston Atoll. And then a company called Aloha Airlines, probably heard of them. They kind of beat them out. And, the company went out of business. So we bought their airplanes. We liquidated their assets, literally. And now they're sitting down here. Also, if you guys take a look at our depth gauges, this is the deepest anybody's going to get today, 108 feet. Do I have any scuba divers on board? Anybody? No scuba divers. So I doubt anybody's ever been down to 108 feet. 108 feet. If you were a scuba diver, you were down this low, you would feel a lot of effects on your body, and your body would feel them as well. But because you're in a submarine, you don't feel any of those. We were able to pressurize this submarine so you don't have any effects from the nitrogen in the air in the deep water. So you don't have to worry about that, nor do you have to get wet to come down and see these cool sights. Okay, board side. Another view of our other YS-11 aircraft. Yeah, one of these guys was actually intact when we sunk it. And then Hurricane Aniki came through here and just tore it all up. So the other one the other airplane, we actually damaged it. Now, at Atlantis submarines, we're not really good at sinking things. We had a couple failures. Number one, we tried to sink, I think it was this aircraft here, and we had a crane on a barge lowering it down, and the barge hit a very large swell, and it ripped the cables right through the fuselage of this aircraft, and it came down in pieces and broke it all apart. So that's why one of the airplanes is just the wings and a little bit of fuselage, and so is the other one is because of Hurricane Aniki. S-11 aircraft was not a good aircraft. It was Japan's first attempt to build an aircraft and their last, or should I say a passenger aircraft or an airliner. It did hold 60 passengers, had a wingspan of 111 feet. It was 84 feet long and had two turboprop engines on it. The turboprop engines were originally built by Kawasaki, our little motorcycle manufacturer, and they were complete failures. And they installed Rolls-Royce engines in them, and they looked a little bit better. But yeah, it wasn't a very good airplane to begin with.
I see she's seashell.
Where?
It's down the ocean.
All right, port
Past it.
side. We got something kind of fun coming up for you.
What's it?
Port side, just before we get to the ship on the ocean floor, you'll see a green fish. That's a parrotfish. That's the guy that makes all the sand. In fact, the University of Hawaii told me that each parrotfish can make up to 800 pounds of sand every year.
Probably World War I.
That's a lot.
It's just a regular old cargo
All right, so this is the YO-257. This ship right here is 174 feet long, 32 feet wide. It was built in 1938. It was originally designed as a military tanker. It can hold 25,000 gallons of oil or fuel or asphalt. Anyways, we bought this at a military auction. We paid $1 for it. It cost us about $300,000 to sink this thing. Yeah, we had to make it environmentally friendly, so we had to remove all of the engines and anything that had oil, all the electrical, all that had to be removed, and then we brought it out here and sunk it. Cut some holes in the side, and had a couple tugboats let it down. But anyways, yeah, this is called the YO-257. YO stands for Yard Oiler. Not sure why they called it that, other than it was a tanker. It would be out into the Pacific Theater, filling up all of our military ships.
Theater.
Yeah, it was used during World War II. It was also used in the Korean War. It was parked for a little while. Then the Coast Guard borrowed it. They took it out of mothballs. They borrowed it, and they made some runways on a bunch of little islands out in the Pacific. They put asphalt in the tanks. Lots of fish out there.
You
The
can see the anchor.
white, yellow, and black fish, those are called pennant butterflies. And then we also have the pyramid butterflies. Those are those beautiful white and orangish yellow fish out there, pyramid butterflies.
The YO. That's pretty. What's
I think I see some sea slugs down there.
it? Where's your ball? US military tanker. Pacific Fleet. Pacific.
Bigger ships are known to
Pacific Theater and Korean Theater.
yeah.
As far
The
as like
military
the
ships
visibility
and
of the
other
area,
ships are actually known for
pretty
really
much-
good
pretty much
foundations
about the
for
same, yeah.
coral.
Maui's a little
Because
more
it offers
visible,
them
a little,
shelter from like crabs
good
and
visibility.
fish that want to eat them.
But there are some very good visibility areas around this island. This one is adequate.
You want to?
Which one?
Oh yeah, check it out.
All right, let me give you a couple facts about this submarine. Submarine, I think I might have told you earlier, weighs 320,000 pounds. It's huge. Also, the batteries, you guys are sitting on top of the batteries underneath these seats. There's 264 2-volt batteries that you're sitting on. Yeah, it makes 220 volts DC, which runs our thrusters. We also have 3 backup systems, one for emergencies, one for communications, and one just a spare battery system, just in case something happens. The batteries themselves weigh 40,000 pounds. Believe me, I know. I spent all day removing the batteries out of the submarine one day. In order to do that, you have to remove the submarine from the water. You put it in dry dock. We have to replace these batteries every 10 years. And they have to go right through the front window. And so do all these boxes. So we did that about 3 months ago. So these batteries are in good shape right now. And each battery weighs 139 pounds.
Ooh, there's a shark down there.
It's more fun. You guys are looking through the viewport window. Yeah, the viewport windows are very expensive as well. They're made out of acrylic plastic. And I'm going to play a little show and tell if I can. I mean, flashlight here. Well, no flashlight. Everybody looks up front here. That's the thickness of our viewport windows right there. 3 1/4 inches thick of acrylic plastic. Yeah, we took a little chunk out of one of these windows. Anybody want to guess which one? There you go. Now, we have to replace these every 10 years as well. These are $9,000 a window. The window in the front, that's 52.5 inches in diameter. It's actually convex. It looks like a contact lens. It's the only way to make it strong is make it convex like that.
Yeah.
And because it's got to withhold a lot of pressure. So, matter of fact, if these windows were made out of glass, we'd all be taking a bath right now. There's not a glass that's strong enough that can withhold all the pressure that we put it through. So these acrylic plastic windows work really well. All right, and starboard side, we're going back through, seeing the YO257. So a little more trivia. I don't know if anybody knows where they got the name Jeep. A lot of you guys probably have Jeeps back at home. Same thing with this YO257. YO means yard oiler. A Jeep in the military used to be called a GP for general purpose. And that's where they got this, the name Jeep, GP. All right, you guys look on top of the ship there. You see that giant trevally or that alua. Let me tell you a little story about those guys. This is real fun. You can go on YouTube and watch this. You can't, we're not going to see it here. The giant trevally can actually track a seabird, let's say a seagull or any type of, even a booby bird, like on Maui. They can actually track their speed and trajectory and come flying out of the water, about 4 feet out of the water, catch that bird midair. Yeah. Catch the bird, bring it right down in the water and eat it. So we usually have birds that go fishing, but this is a fish that goes birding. Apparently it happens all the time, not around here because we don't have a whole lot of seabirds that fly real close to the surface of the water, but other areas of the world, those guys do a lot of fishing, catch birds. But yeah, go to YouTube and type in giant trevally and bird. You'll see what I'm talking about. That guy is the apex predator out here. I would be more afraid of him if I was out here scuba diving than I would be afraid of any of the sharks. Most of the sharks will dissipate. They don't like us. In fact, they don't like to eat us either. Let me tell you about the sharks. They prefer copper in blood. We're iron-based blood, all as human beings. So they prefer to have injured fish, or maybe a turtle or a seal. They're all copper-based. They also don't like us because we have way too much sodium in our flesh. So a lot of times when there is a shark attack, they'll end up taking a little bite to find out what you are, especially if they can't see you. So usually that's the reason why there aren't as many shark fatalities. Matter of fact, I live on the island of Maui, and last year we had one fatal shark attack, and we had 22 traffic deaths. So it's actually safer to be snorkeling and scuba diving than just to be driving on the island of Maui. All right, starboard side, that is a new boat. That is called the St. Pedro. That's St. Pedro. It's not the San Pedro, it's the St. Pedro. It was made in Japan. Also, it was owned by a Korean fishing company. And those guys were just off the south tip of the big island of Hawaii, and the thing caught fire. That's why we got it.
Try spot a GP. Try.
Is there a Jeep in there?
I don't know. We gotta find out.
Anyways, the St. Pedro was on fire, and they used all their firefighting equipment to get the fire out. And guess what? It stayed on fire. So they had a bunch of barrels of soy sauce and bait aboard, and they used the soy sauce to put the fire out. So the thing that once they did get the fire out, they got towed back to the big island. It sat in a harbor there for a little while, And with the heat and all that, and the soy sauce, they named it the teriyaki boat because of its horrible smell. Anyways, about a couple years later, it got towed up to Oahu here, and it sat in the harbor here for about 30 years. We ended up buying it and towing it out here to sink it. Same thing, $300,000 to sink a boat that costs almost nothing. It was just a big piece of metal. Unfortunately, we had to remove all the engines, all the oils, all of the electrical out of it, and get all the permits to sink that thing. Now, as I told you earlier, we're not real good at sinking things. This particular boat right here, we went to go sink that boat. We cut some holes in the side. Well, let me tell you how we were going to let it down. We had a tugboat on the front of it and a tugboat on the back. We were in the water cutting holes in the side, and it took on too much water, got too heavy, and almost took both tugboats with it. We had to release the tugboat, the winch lines on the tugboats, and the thing came crashing down to the ocean floor. That's why it's not sitting totally level. We like to sink things and sit them totally level. So, anyways, we're a submarine company that's not good at sinking things. Kind of ironic.
Oh, look at that fish.
So I've seen a couple fish out here with green tails. It's a black fish with a green tail. And that's called a pink tail triggerfish. Yeah. So anyways, at the surface, the guy's tail is pink. All the way down here at 100 feet or 80 feet, the tail turns a different color. Matter of fact, everybody look at their clothing. If you guys wore anything red, or any of your clothing may have actually turned colors. In fact, if you have anything fluorescent on, maybe ladies with their fingernails, those might have gotten a little brighter. But anything with red probably left, and it's probably purple and brown now. And that's due to color absorption of the ocean. So it actually is still red, it's just we can't see that due to the type of light that we have down here. We start losing all colors in the spectrum in the same fashion as the rainbow. So it starts out with red, we lose red at about 30 feet. And then we lose the color yellow at about 400 feet. So anything yellow is gone at 400 feet, and then blues and purples, we lose those at about 600 feet, and then there's no colors after that.
Oh, these are
Starboard side, you're looking at a bunch of yellow fish with the stripes. Those are the blue striped snappers. I think we was telling you earlier. Those guys were they're invasive. They're actually brought by the state of Hawaii up from Tahiti. The state of Hawaii took a boat down to Tahiti. Another turtle on the St. Pedro. How cool! Take a look, dead center of the St. Pedro down in there. Anyways, those blue striped snappers, the state of Hawaii went down to Tahiti to get them. They actually went down there to get them to increase the fishing and food supply here in Hawaii.
It kind of looks
So
like
they
the
dumped
ocean.
1,000 of those guys here in Honolulu and another 1,000 in Kona. And what we found out is the Hawaiians really didn't like to eat them, and they don't like to fish for them. So now they're just invasive species, and they just eat all the other fish's food. That's okay. He also brought up another fish to increase the food supply, and that was called a peacock grouper. Now, another little mistake made. What they forgot was that's a predator fish, and all the predator fish in the area here have what they call ciguatera poisoning, so they're not edible. They're actually, their Tahitian name is called Roy, R-O-I, and every year we go on what we call a Roy roundup. We try to eliminate all those fish. We make fertilizer out of those guys. Yeah, they're not edible, and they're kind of not good to the rest of our fish life system out here. All right, starboard side, we got some big giant trevally. There's some look straight down. Those guys are about, that guy's 75 pounds or so. Yeah, maybe they're 100 pounds or so. The world record on a giant trevally is 191.5 pounds, caught by a 13-year-old kid on Maui back about 30 years ago. Sometimes they'll use our submarine as a hunting blind, so they'll crawl underneath it or swim underneath it. And as we're going by other schools of fish, they'll go out after that fish. They'll hide underneath their submarine to do that. All right, so more cool facts about this submarine. We have what they call a scrubber system. Same thing that they have on the space shuttle. So scrubber system removes all the carbon dioxide that we're breathing out or we're exhaling, so we can all breathe again. Matter of fact, if this submarine is full of passengers and we didn't have that scrubber system, we'd all be getting a little drowsy right now. By the time we got to the surface, we'd all be asleep and never wake up again because of the carbon dioxide poisoning. But the scrubber system is actually back there by our co-pilot Shimon on the starboard side. That intake right back there, it sucks all the air in that we're exhaling, and it brings it through what they call soda lime. It's a mineral, and takes all the carbon dioxide out and brings it back in. We also have plenty of oxygen on board, and we have plenty of high pressure. The high pressure is what's going to surface our submarine. We're going to blow the air ballast in just a short time. The oxygen is actually what we pump in here so you guys can breathe. We can also pressurize the submarine, just like an airplane. We can adjust the pressure in the submarine so you guys don't have any idea that you're down underneath the water. You don't feel any of the effects of all the pressure out there. So at the surface, when we load you guys, we are at 1 atmosphere of pressure. We come down to about 120 feet. We're going into the 4th atmosphere, which means we have about 60 pounds per square inch of pressure pushing against the outside of the submarine. It's squeezing us. That's why we need these strong windows here. This submarine is capable of going down to 800 feet. We've never done it.
This fish out here that is like, he has like a skirt or something, like it's, he doesn't have regular fins.
All right, so there's a starboard side. There's a black fish out there with some interesting fins. He looks kind of like what they call a trigger. That is called a black durgan. And then just in front of it is that pink-tailed triggerfish that has the green tail. Just in front of it, about 20 feet out midship. And then we also have a parrotfish kind of coming that way. The guy with the green tail looks like a mermaid. That's the guy that's making all this sand for us. So I hope I didn't wreck your vacation. If you guys are building sand castles in front of your resort, you guys are actually playing with fish poop.
See if you can try spy octopus.
All right, starboard side, that's one of those giant porcupine fish. So those guys can actually blow up to the size of, well, not quite the size of your viewboard. Let's just call it a basketball. Yeah, and that's bloat from Finding Nemo. Yeah, a whole bunch of giant porcupine fish. Port side, just below this piece of coral that we're coming past, you'll see a green starfish. It's actually a sea star. That's called a mermaid's pillow. So if you look straight down, you'll see a green starfish called a mermaid's pillow. If you guys are out here swimming and you happen to pick one of those guys up and turn it upside down, you might notice something fun. The starfish will actually take its stomach out of its body and wrap it around its food. The stomach is the size of a balloon. So you flip that guy upside down and see this balloon popping out of him. So he takes that little balloon and wraps it around the food or some of the particles and eats it.
Oh look, triggerfish. The camera's different color.
Okay. All right, starboard side. You're looking at a Mylar balloon. We didn't put that there. Wow.
Very
interesting.
Talk about my
All right, so this trip's been pretty good. We've seen sharks.
Sharks.
We've seen, what else did we get to see? We got to see turtles and a Mylar balloon. That definitely tops it off for me.
Yeah. Ooh, you seen a balloon underwater. Smooth. They're angry.
So we're going to cruise around that area for just a little bit longer until we get information to surface. Let me tell you how we're going to surface. So the submarine doesn't use those vertical thrusters or propellers that push the submarine down in the water. We actually use air pressure. We have what we call air ballast. Right now they're flooded with water. We're going to blow air into those air ballasts. In fact, if you're sitting all the way in the front of the submarine or all the way in the back, if you look out your viewport windows, you'll see an oval just above your window there. Those are called air ballasts. Right now they're full of water. And when we open up some valves up here, it's going to pump air in those. We have 8 on each side, total 16, and that's going to take about 20,000 pounds of negative buoyancy off of us and make us positively buoyant real fast. We're going to go up to the surface. We're actually going to go up faster than we would go forward. The submarine is capable of doing 3 miles an hour forward. We're not in any hurry to go anywhere. In fact, when we built these submarines, we built them for passengers in mind, not to get places fast. So let me tell you about the thrusters on this thing. I told you we have 2 vertical thrusters that pushes us down into the water. In fact, I think he's using those right now. We also have some stern thrusters, or all the way in the back, that propels us forward. And we have some thrusters all the way up front by the pilot. You can actually look out his viewport windows and see those guys. Those are called bow thrusters. And that helps us turn this big ship. And also it propels us forward or sideways. As you notice, we don't have a sunroof. We have no way to look above us. So one of the ways that we communicate with our surface officer above us, so we can see if we're going to surface, is we blow that bubble. If you remember when we came up on the submarine when they were down, we blew a big bubble. And I'm going to tell you when we're going to do that, you'll hear some air flowing around. So we're going to give them an idea where we're at. He's also in constant communication with the surface boat up there. And we use what they call sonar, or underwater telephone. We use 27 kilohertz to do that. Once we get to the surface, we can no longer use sonar. We have to go use our VHF radio. So if you guys are looking for something fun to do tonight, we have a sunset cruise on our sister ship called the Majestic. It's not a submarine, it's a bigger ship that you guys came out on. Majestic leaves from Honolulu here, and it's normally about $80 for our sunset cruise, or cocktail cruise, should I call it. Comes with 2 free cocktails, but it's about $40 tonight. So if anybody wants something fun to do tonight, definitely call the Atlantis Adventures or Majestic and get booked on tonight's sunset cruise. We also do whale watching from that boat as well. And you can call them up and get details on that also.
I wonder what the Denver's is like.
All right, this submarine also has another safety device built in. It's called a trim tray. In fact, it runs along the bottom of the submarine. It's full of weight. It's got 14,000 pounds of weight in it. So if we ever have an emergency, we can jettison that weight in about a second. Drop the 14,000 pounds, and we'll get up to the top real fast. That's called a trim tray. That actually moves back and forth, so we can adjust the trim on the submarine as well. So we can point the nose up or point the nose down. ways that we adjust buoyancy on the submarine is we add on seawater. So we actually had to add on 12,000 pounds of seawater. If there were no passengers, we had to put on about 16,000 pounds of seawater. So everybody in here weighs about 4,000 pounds. And we have to continually adjust that seawater to correct our buoyancy to make us always positively buoyant. So we have these very large water pumps that pump into tanks up and down the center of the submarine as well. So that's kind of how a submarine operates. It operates on positive buoyancy. We flood tanks with water so we can be negatively buoyant, and we also use thrusters to push us down and push us forward. It's actually pretty simple when you think about it, but submarine pilot takes them 3.5 years of constant training just to be able to drive this thing. There's a whole bunch of other factors you have to worry about when you're driving this. Number one, the visibility, the currents. Luckily today there's very low currents down there. Makes it a little bit easier to drive a submarine, but when currents get too much, we can't operate these submarines. It pushes us faster than we can push ourselves. All right, you guys hear that air blowing around? We're going to blow them a bubble real quick up at the surface. That way they can tell where we're at. And then they're going to give us the okay to surface the submarine.
Hey, it's back to normal.
All right, we're blowing our air ballast tank right now. We're going to give us 20,000 pounds of positive buoyancy by doing that. It's going to float us all the way to the top pretty quickly here. And then once we surface, we're going to get straightened out. We're going to have the discovery of our shuttle boat that's going to come over alongside of us to tie up so we can get off. I'm going to give you more disembarking instructions in just a couple minutes once we get there.
And reach surface level. Let's go. Reach surface level.
All right, great news. We made it back to the surface. Hey, let's give it up for Captain Chris. He's pretty awesome. And our co-pilot, Jim, and we couldn't do it without those guys. 25 years experience up here. One of the fast chased around a couple turtles for us. He's pretty awesome. And he was found with a mylar balloon. I've never seen one before. All right, we're going to see Captain open very shortly here. And I'll give you guys a little bit more information on how to disembark.